really tough in here. I've got to keep my head out of the water. My clothes are really dragging me down. You can't really see where the waves are coming from. This has only been less than a minute, and I'm already in trouble.
It's not the North Sea, of course, but this sea survival training tank in Lowestoft can create some very challenging conditions. I'm hoping for an insight into what it may have been like to be attacked by one of World War I's most effective weapon systems.
It's difficult not to think of the First World War as just a land war that was fought on the battlefields of Western Europe and beyond. But of course, what happened at sea was of immense importance to the outcome of the war. Britain's mighty naval fleet protected British trade, moved troops around, put the squeeze on the enemy economy, and of course, it was there to prevent invasion.
However, the might of the Royal Navy was about to be challenged by the emerging technology of submarines, underwater weapons that the British Admiralty had only seen as defensive. One of the first U-boat attacks was on the 22nd of September 1914, when 3 Royal Navy cruisers, HMS Cressy, Hogue and Abu Qir, were all sent to the bottom of the North Sea within an hour of each other by a single U-boat. It was a devastating attack that made clear the Navy had a major problem on its hands.
After all, the best way to sink a ship is to put a hole in its bottom, and that's what U-boat torpedoes were particularly good at. Even the thought that there could be a U-boat nearby was enough to affect the behaviour of ships on the surface of the sea, wary of the dreadful threat that was lurking below.
However, it wasn't just warships that the U-boats were targeting.
In 1915, after much deliberation, the Germans decided that U-boats should be used against all enemy shipping. The British were using their surface fleet to blockade Germany to stop them getting vital supplies. So why shouldn't they use their underwater fleet to target British shipping? And so they declared unrestricted submarine warfare. And suddenly, anyone in any British ship was fair game.
One of the most controversial casualties of unrestricted U-boat warfare was the Lusitania, a passenger liner torpedoed in May 1915, causing the loss of over 1,000 civilian lives, as well as tons of ammunition bound for Britain. The sinking turned political and public opinion in the United States against Germany.
If you were torpedoed and still alive, the next inevitable step was to abandon ship. In every survivor account I've read, plans for evacuation just go out the window because anything can happen, but at some point, you're going to have to jump in. Now, at that moment, you've got to do everything you can to help you. I haven't got any life rings here, but I've got a stool, that might help. Ah! And I've got a big chair. Ah! Now, I've got to try and get away from the ship as quickly as possible to avoid the suction from the big propellers. Right. Here goes.
It's really tough in here. This is all I've got to really keep me warm. It's really pulling me down. I haven't got a life jacket. Not everyone had life jackets on World War I. Keep swallowing water. I've only been in here about 30 seconds. That is exhausting. What I need to do, go find those chairs. See if I can make a float out of it.
After the Abu Qir and the Hogue had been torpedoed, the crew of the Cressy ripped up as much timber as they could, including bar stools and chairs from the mess, for saving lives, and they threw it into the sea before they themselves were sunk.
Oh, even with these chairs, the waves are too big. When the weather's like this, Just got to hold on and survive. We've got a far greater chance of surviving with other people. Go then, boys, if you come.
Civilian, merchant seaman or Royal Navy officer, it didn't matter. Most of those who didn't go down with the ship would end up adrift in the water. The natural instinct is to group together.
Go on then, over here, guys. Stick together, we're going to link arms, make a circle. We've got a much better chance of surviving if we stay together. More than anything, it helps you convince each other that you actually are going to survive. And you can keep an eye on each other. Now, we're doing okay, but I haven't got a life jacket, so if you see any more bits of wood, go and get anything that was chucked off the ship that will help. Go. Now, what you need to do to start off is just to make sure that the wood doesn't float away. Then all hang on to a little bit and hope that the waves ease. As your body loses heat 26 times faster in water than it does in the air. So what you've really got to do is get out of this water as quickly as possible. Be looking around the horizon for ships. But the problem is, one of the common survival stories from shipwrecks is disappointment because they see a ship first and it doesn't rescue them. So keep your eyes on the horizon. Prepare yourselves to be let down.
Fortunately, on that September morning in 1914, there was some help for the crews of the 3 torpedoed British warships, as nearby trawlers saved almost 800 lives. However, nearly twice as many were lost in the attack.
By the end of the war, millions of tons of shipping had been sunk by U-boats. Most of it non-naval, so most of it merchant ships and some passenger liners. And it wasn't enough to win the war for Germany, but the U-boat war affected the lives of thousands of people during the war, and it changed forever the nature of warfare at sea. I wasn't in that water for very long, but it was really intense and very frightening having the wind and the waves and the rain continually bashing into your face. And this pool's quite warm, but it must have been horrific out in the North Sea. Those iron grey waters were absolutely freezing. And you realise very quickly you haven't got much chance at all.
In World War I, the sea could be as treacherous as the battlefields of the Western Front.